All right, visual effects gangs, are you ready to have some fun? We're going to go do some vertex caching. And in order to do some vertex caching, we're going to use Houdini for this, and we're going to install SideFX Labs toolset. You probably have no idea what I'm talking about with that, but we'll go into this now. You don't necessarily have to use just Houdini. You can use Maya to do this. You can use 3D Studio Max to do this. I'm sure you could use Blender to do this. I'm sure somebody's written a plugin for this. But you're going to need some kind of external hardware outside of UE4 in order to get things working. And so my favorite tool is, of course, Houdini. So that we're going to show Houdini here. And so I'm going to return to Houdini and show you what I'm talking about when I talk about the SideFX Lab toolset here. All right, come on, kill it. Oh, good, good, good. Now what I need to do here is I need to get this SideFX toolkit here. And the toolkit that you're probably looking at here is if you go and hit this little plus dealio here, and you go to shelves and you look over to SideFX Labs. There it is, SideFX. Click that. And look at mine, it's already populated. Now, if this is the first time you've ever done this, you won't be populated. What you'll need to do is first click Update Toolset. So go ahead and click Update Toolset, and it'll ask you want to do this. You say, okay, yeah, go ahead, update. This is what you're going to have to do. Go ahead, hit update, and then it's going to say, hey there, bub, we're going to need to reinstall or restart Houdini. I've already done this, so it doesn't make any sense. So what you're probably going to have to do is go ahead and restart Houdini. And I'm going to go change my desktop to be a little bit more demonstrational. And while your Houdini is rebooting itself, I'm going to change this over to my demonstration desktop. There it is, TA demo. Okay, cool. Now we're ready to rock and roll. And the first thing we want to try to do is, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my shelf is still available. So what we're going to have to do is go to shelves, and come on. Shelves, there we go. Go back to make sure that SideFX Labs is still on. What we're looking for here is this thing. It says VAT. This is what we want, and that stands for Vertex something texture. I can't remember what that is. Vertex animation texture. That's what it actually stands for. And we're going to need to use that, but not quite yet. But what we're going to do is File. I'm going to set a new project. So I'm going to go to New Project, and I'm going to go into my set this into my location where I like to work. So I'm going to go to C. Please change this to a location where you like to work, probably your desktop. I'm going to go to Users, Crota, blah, blah, blah. Work, Game. Okay, we've got Lectures, Houdini, and I'm going to call this Vertex Cache Demo. Okay. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and say this now because I'm going to accept that. But if I go up a folder and if I go click this to Houdini, I'll click yes. And then I'm going to put my new project in there, Vertex Cache folder. I'm going to click accept. And now I am in here and I am ready to boogie woogie. Now, before we do anything with Houdini, we got to go and find stuff in UE4 that we want to blow up. So I'm going to return back to UE4. And let's look over here. Everything, there's stuff from our last lecture, and this stuff is cool, but I think we can make it cooler. So what I want to do is I'm going to go run over to an area that I just kind of set up ahead of time. What I did was I changed some of the geometry around in this, and I changed one of the doorways so that it kind of had this groovy wooden door texture onto it, and I want to change that to something that's a little bit more sinister, or a little bit evil, like Cthulhu had touched it. And so it's now dominated by a demon door. Okay, there's our demon door, and I put a demon right there in the doorway there. And let's so happens that if our hero is coming up here and he was going to go up and knock on the door, boom, what would happen? The demon door would blow up on him. So what do we need to do? What we'd want to do is what we want to try to do is capture this demon door, because this is what we're going to blow up. But we also might want to get this arch that's kind of to create as a boundary, and we know that we want to bounce off of these stairs. So I would grab this staircase, and I grab this floor, and I grab maybe this floor as well, and maybe, oh, look, it looks like we've got other staircases that we might actually have stuff rolling down and onto here. So we might want to export this geometry too to act as a collision reference. So I'm going to start collecting all my stuff. I'm going to grab my demon statue. Okay, there's my door. And I'm going to grab my, I'm going to go shift click, and I'm going to grab this arch that I want. And then I want to grab this, shift click on this ground. And I want these stairs, and I want this ground here. And how about this ground? And what about this stairs right here? And well, let's go for this just this way, just in case some debris just kind of gets out of the way as it explodes. In order to do that, so I'm going to go to File. Then I'm going to choose Export Selected. So I just want to export the stuff that I have selected. So I'm going to say Export Selected. And now I'm going to navigate all the way back to my folder where I created my project. And so I'm going to go to, here it is, it's Lectures, Houdini, and I called this, just, where did I call this? I thought I did it. Where did I get it? I can't believe it. I forgot where I contacted this. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So File, Set Recent Project. It doesn't even say that. So I'm going to go New Project, and I'm going to navigate over to this. I can't believe I forgot to do this. I must be getting senile. So I'm going to go to Users, Crota, Work, Game, RTVFX, Lectures, Houdini. Okay, there's my folder. I'm going to copy this, copy that folder, cancel, put that in here. Okay, so now it says Houdini. I'm going to call it Vertex Cache Demo. Like accept. All right, I'm going to go to File, and then I'm going to save this project. So just so I nav this, though, I'm going to call this Save As. And I'm going to call this Vertex Cache Demo 1. Vertex Cache Demo 1. Okay, I've got that going here. Now let's go back to UE4. I've got all this selected. And do I have Vertex Cache Demo? There it is, Vertex Cache Demo. And then I'm going to go to where does it have something called Export or Import, or well, let's just go to Geo. Geo stands for geometry, so I'll click Geo. And I'm going to call this just Explode Door. Explode Door. And I'm going to leave it just as FBX. I'll click Save. And just leave everything at default there. Click Export. All right. Now I'm ready to put this away and go into Houdini. And so we're going to go into, I'm going into Houdini. The first thing we need to do is import all the stuff that we created. So I'm going to right click, or I'm going to drop in a geometry node here, because this is going to be a geometry container. And I'm going to change this to, I'm going to call this destruction prep. This is going to contain all of my destruction prep. I'm going to go into that. There's nothing in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is lay down a file SOP. Type this in, file. Okay, and then I've got a file SOP going at it here. Hey there. And what I'm going to do is just click on the input to that. And then I've got my Vertex Cache Demo. I'm going to go to my Geo, click Job, Geo, Explode Door.fbx, click Accept, and nothing's happened. Actually, something did happen, and a very definitive thing happened, actually. And if we go ahead and just hit the F key, there it all is. But notice that we are off in La La Land. This is actually just huge, and look, we are not at the origin anymore. There was this 3100, 6200. We are off in Zoomsville. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so we need to clean things up a little bit. And the first thing to do is realize that whenever you pull anything from UE4 to Houdini, that Houdini is about 100 times smaller than UE4. That's because it does things, its units are in centimeters, and in UE4 their units are in meters. So we need to knock everything down into a hundreds place. So if I'm going to go ahead and throw in a transform sub. Come on, let's go. There we go. And I'm going to knock this down. I'm going to say transform. I'm going to put this down to something like scale down. And then I'm going to go with the uniform scale. I'm going to go 0.01. And it's going to make it 100 times smaller. If I put the display flag on, it disappears again. Not to worry. Go ahead and hit the F key. And there everything is again. Now we're still off in La La Land, but our units are a little bit more reasonable. We see negative 25 and 25 going out there. This negative 55. So we seem to be in the right scale now. Now look at this. Oh, we got all this blue schmutz going on here. These are shading groups that UE4 puts into its FBX outputs. We don't want any of those. So we're going to get rid of all of those. So I'm going to append a blast sop. So B-L-A-S-T, blast. I'm going to put the display onto here, and everything's going to disappear, not to worry. But we're going to type in a little expression here. I'm going to go at name equals, and I'm going to type UCX underscore star. I hit enter. Everything appears, and now all the blue schmutz is gone away. And we see we've got all the polygons in there. And what this does is the blast sop just uses this as an expression, and it just deletes all the groups in there other than what was in it. So all we have is the geometry of it. Now look at here. This is the, we've got our door in here, but it's in the doorway. So we're going to use the same kind of similar technique, and then we are going to isolate the door from the scene. So first, I'm going to kind of drag this off over here. Then I'm going to drag off here and append another blast sop. Now, honestly, I don't remember what this is actually called. So I'm going to put the display on here. The whole thing's going to disappear, and I can't remember what the group name is. So I'm going to go in and look for, okay, demon door. That's what I want. I'm going to select that. Now, notice everything but the demon door has been removed. And so I want to reverse or flip that entirely. So I'm going to say delete non-selected. Click that, and we have our demon door right there. And I'm going to call this demon door, so I know what it is. Now I'm going to take all of that information that I was using before, and I'm going to use it as my collision object. And so if I want to use as the collision object, what can I possibly do? I'm going to go ahead and hit the Alt key and then drag that. So that's going to create a duplicate of it here. And so I've got to call. I'm going to call this let's call it the set. And I'm going to hit delete non-selected. And notice that everything kind of like pops out of the way that wasn't the doorway. So now I've got two different threads here, one for the demon door and one for the set. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to take, we're going to focus on our demon door here. And I'm going to focus right in on him. So he goes right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to pre-fracture this object into a whole bunch of little shapes. Now, the technique that we used before, we fractured the thing into about 50 shapes in here. Well, we can make this much more. We can grab this and actually fracture it into a couple of thousand shapes. We're probably going to fracture it into a couple of million, but we're not going to run it into any kind of memory limitations using this technique. And this is one of the techniques that I like that. So what I'm going to do is drop this scatter sop right into that. I'm going to go scatter. I drop that in here. And you'll notice that what it did was it filled basically, it says there's about 1,000 points in here, and it just scattered kind of indiscriminately all around through the base of it. Let's change that around so there's about 200 points. So right now there's about 200 points. That's actually still kind of a lot. So let's just make it 100. so that we can actually see it a little bit better. See, it's 100, and now we've got basically 100. Now, the distribution of the points is still a little bit uniform at the moment, but I'm going to leave it for now and just leave it at that. Next, we're going to do something is called a save the scene. Yes, save the scene, because I don't want to lose the information here. What we're going to do is we're going to use something called Voronoi Fracturing. Now, Voronoi Fracturing, this gold guy, I think from Russia or something, his name is Voronoi. He came up with this algorithm a million years ago, and it's a pretty cool algorithm. So you've got all these points in here, and just like the points that we created on side of our scatter. And what it does is it finds the middle between any 2 points, and then it draws a line that's perpendicular to those 2 points. So here we have it perpendicular to these 2 points. This line is perpendicular to these 2 points. This line is perpendicular to these 2 points, and so forth. And then you ultimately start extending each of these lines until they start intersecting with some other lines. And then once you let all the lines intersect with each other, then you can start to get all this kind of like cellular fracture type noise in here. So this is an actually very classic numerical geometry type computer science algorithm. And if you're so interested, it's a good exercise. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, this is an n-log-n algorithm, which means it's pretty darn fast. And it is very useful for not only breaking stuff apart, but it's using things for like creating dragon scales or creating other things in material shaders. So that's what we're going to do here with the Houdini stuff. And so I'm going to drag this over here. I'm going to drag this off to the side here. I'm going to type in Voronoi Fracture. Voronoi Fracture. All right. And now I'm going to put my scatter into this Voronoi Fracture. And we click that, and nothing seems to happen. Not to worry. This has already been broken up into it, and so this has already been. If we want to actually see what it do, we can actually blow things apart. And I think we can do a pre-visualization on here. So let's see. What is this called? Explode. Yeah, explode view. There we go. Now this is a temporary SOP that I'm going to put on here. I'm going to put the explode view on here. Oh, there it is. And so what I'm going to do is just move this scale back and forth. And this is going to show you how the thing's broken up. Now look at the distribution here. It's very, very uniform. Now this might be good for most people, but not for me. Not for us. We are better visual effects artists than this. We want to have total control over this. Now let's just say that since we're going to blow this sucker up, let's say that we want some real high definition right in the face, and we want that and we want it to kind of fall off until like we get right to the feet where there's almost like nothing blowing apart at all. So we can kind of paint in all of the areas that we want to break up, and we want to define where the granularity of this breakage is. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to paint onto the object the stuff that we want to break up the most. And in order to do this, before we start painting, you notice that it's looking kind of white. So we're going to use the vertex colors. We're going to use the color of the object here itself to designate how much we want to bust this up by. So what I'm going to do is we're in between this where it says demon door and where it says scatter, I'm going to add a point SOP. I'll type it here. I'm going to type point, and I'm going to drop that, kind of snap that in there. I'm going to just leave that as is. I'm going to go ahead and put the display in there. Notice everything is white. So I'm going to change this see where it says attribute, or it says position. I'm going to change that so it is color, so CD, and then I want to make sure that it's a constant value. So where it says Vex expression, I'm going to drag and drop this, and it's the constant value. And for it says constant value here, I'm going to change this to total 0, which of course means black. So this is black. So I'm going to call this SOP paint black. All right, now this is black. All right, now let's actually start painting in some of the regions that we want to be a little bit more brittle. So in between the paint black and the scatter, I'm going to type in here, I'm going to say paint attributes. All right, I'm going to cook that in there. All right, now I'm going to put the display stop in there so we can understand this. Okay, and so what we have to do now is I'm going to call the name paint brittleness. Paint brittleness. Okay, this is going to be out. I get the display flag on. I'm going to set the attribute name, the attribute, to where it says mask. And the attribute, oh, well, I'll go over here to attributes where it says attributes mask. I'm going to change this to CD. Now CD is a VEX expression for that means the color diffuse, the diffuse color. Now if you remember, I think we talked a little bit about this. There's 3 types of color that you have in here. You've got your ambient, your diffuse, and your specular. And diffuse is your basic base color, or it's albedo that in most color things. So that's what we want here. And so for the attribute type, we're going to change this float over to color. All right, so that means we're going to be changing in color. So here's our paintbrush. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit to the demon's face here. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the Enter key. And you'll notice that my cursor now changes over to a little bit of a little ball that's going to focus and follow along the contour of the surface. And now if I use the mouse wheel up and down, I can kind of change its shape. And let's just suppose I wanted the most amount of breakage up to happen right around the face. So I'm going to get this a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to just start painting in stuff right around the face. All right, so I want to get stuff around the horns. Okay, get that. And we've got here, we've got these horns, so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller here. So I'm going to paint around this horn. All right, groovy. All right, we've got this horn. If it spills out, it's a little okay. I'll get around the face here. And I'm going to go and start painting in this horn. And pull that over here. Oops. Go back and paint this over again, over up in here. All right, you got a little bit of a goatee action there, Van Gogh action. All right. All right, you can get the horns here. All right, we accidentally lost some of that, so I'm painting this over here. Okay, so this is going to be the area of most amount of brittleness here. Now I'm going to pull back just a wee bit here. And suppose I wanted to just kind of like a gentle gradient that kind of like starts off where there's a lot of explosion up near the face and then just kind of tapers off near the feet. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make my opacity just a little bit smaller. Let's go to maybe like 50%. Whew. And I'm just going to, that's still, the opacity is just a little bit much. I'm going to go ahead and erase that. And make it, maybe the opacity is like a 0.25, 0.2, something like that. Make it be a little smaller. Yeah, okay. And then I'm going to add in a little bit about the body. And then I'm going to go and make it half as much again. And so we've got this much coming through. Half as much again. So very small. Okay. And let's just say, oh, I want a little bit more gradient up here. Okay, so as you can see, it's going to blow apart mostly in the face, and then it's going to start going into the body, like right around the chest here. We got a little bit more, and then it's just going to fade off as we're approaching down to the feet or the toes, where almost nothing's going to blow up. Okay, what we can do is check out to see how this actually looks. So if we go ahead and we hit our scatter, well, we really can't see much because we only have a few points. So let's go ahead and increase this to maybe 1,000 points. Now we can see where the white stuff is. Now this is where the breakup is going to happen. Now we have to actually oh wait, generate by density. Yeah, that's We have to scatter by density. Yeah, okay, that's going to go and tell us where we're going to go, and that's where we see most of the scattering is going to happen by. And then we're going to go into the Voronoi fracture. We don't see much going on here. Let's see, what did I want to try to do here? Is I think generate by density, the density scale. Oh, density attribute. We have to make this. I'm going to pull this down and make sure that this is color, because that's what I really want is color here. Ah, now that really got the piece here. Now I really identified. Here's where most of the breakup is going to happen, right at the demon's face, and here's a little bit in the chest, and you see it's kind of like scatters off down to nothing to where you get hit the legs. So let's see what this actually looks like if we're going to do the Voronoi fracture on it. I'm going to go ahead and put the display on it. We really can't see anything, but what I want to try to do is put the Voronoi fracture on. We can see a little bit of bubbly breakup stuff in here, and so I'm going to click this, and as you can see, with the display on there, there's a lot of real breakup here right in the face. So a lot of little pieces up there, so it's really, really brittle in the face, and things are really kind of chunky on the sides here. And so not much is going on there, so this is where I would break up. So I think this is pretty good for the time being. Now, if we wanted to work with our art director, we could fine-tune this and make this look a lot prettier, but for the sake of simplicity and for brevity, let's just get things moving along here. So I'm going to turn this off here, and for overall, I'm going to look over here to the scatter. I think 1,000 points is still a little bit big, so I'm going to change this to 500. And this is now 500 points. The distribution is still basically the same, but there's just fewer points here. And I have a hunch this will make this look overall better. 500 points, yeah, let's just go for it. That should be good to go. All right, now, like I said, we could go back and forth and fine-tune this if we wanted to, but what we're going to do now is focus on the inside and the outside. Because we've broken this object up into two different pieces, well, into like 500 different pieces, we have faces that are on the outside that used to be covered by the texture map. Well, they still are. But we also have inside pieces which have now been broken apart. We actually subdivided this object into lots of little pieces. And now we have to worry about the inside of the object and the outside of the object. The outside of the object was taken care of, so what we have to do is worry about the inside. And so we have to make sure that the UVs are going to be correct into this. If we go and we select this object and we go into perspectives at the view mode, go to the viewport, we can see that we have two UV sets. We've got this side, and we've got the rumbling setting in. And we've got the second UV set going here, but there's nothing as far as the interior is concerned. So we have to make sure that the interior is taken care of. We don't even have anything in here for the interior. All right, let's go back to the automatic. So what we're going to do here is drop in a UV unwrap. Now this is going to unwrap all of the shapes, and so we're going to identify the group. Now notice that Houdini already identified the inside group and the outside group. We've already got good UV coverage for the outside. So let's make this for the inside. And then so for the spacing, let's go for a value of 0 because we want to take as much advantage of our texture map as possible. And I'm going to hit the display on this. And now notice that we have good coverage by notice that we have all these little objects in here. This is all the, this is the exterior, and we've got some kind of overlap for the interior and the exterior going at it here. That's okay, but we've got good coverage with all these little spots all the way in here, so we know that we're covered really well. Now, in order to export this back into UE4, we're going to have to designate an interior material and an exterior material. Not a problem. So what we're going to do is create some placeholders. Now, I know that Houdini allows you to create an interior material and an exterior material, but what we're going to do is we're going to apply something simpler here. So I'm going to hit Tab, and what I'm going to do is lay down a material network. Material network. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to call this material network UE4 mat placeholder. Placeholders. All right, now this is a separate network, so I'm going to double click to drop into it. And you notice that there's nothing into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down a something called a principled shader. Now that's their basic, fundamental PBR shader that Disney, the guys over at Disney wrote a few years back. So I'm going to hit Tab, and I'm going to type in principled shader. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. They even got a little Magic Kingdom thing on there to designate that the guys from Disney created it. All right, so let's call the base color, let's call this the outside color. Outside material. And let's make the outside material green. So green is also known as 0, 1, 0. All right, we've got this. We've got the outside material. Let's create a duplicate of that. So I'm going to press Alt and then drag. And I'm going to call this one inside material. And then I'm going to make this one red. Okay, so I've got two materials here that are going to act as placeholders as we're going into UE4. So I'm going to go up, and we have this. And now I'm going to do is assign these two materials to our object here. So I'm going to drop this down here. I'm going to go material. Yeah. All right, now the number of materials here, I want to make sure that we have two materials, one for the interior and one for the exterior, one for the inside, one for the outside. I'm going to click on the plus here to make sure that there's two materials. And so notice there's two tabs here. I'm going to choose the first tab. So I'm going to make sure that the group is the outside group. And then for the material, I'm going to go and click this little network dealio. And I'm going to go into the destruction prep. And here is the UE4 mat placeholder. I'm going to go into that, and we want the outside material. I'm going to click that. I'm going to click the export relative path. I'm going to click accept. I've got that in there. And then I'm going to click in number 2 for the second material, and I want to make this to be the inside group. I'm going to do the same thing over there. Click the inside material, relative path, click accept. And now everything should look green because it's one thing, but we've got some inside stuff. Click some stuff coming out. That's okay. We're good to go for now. If we wanted to, we could actually go ahead and meddle with that a little bit, but for brevity, we're just going to leave that as is for now. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this video off and continue on in part 2, where we're actually going to create the actual simulation itself. So hang on here. Part 2 is coming right around the corner.